morning, everybody. And if you'll notice, everything looks quite a bit different in here. Me and Sam are doing some rearranging right now. So as I started to get all this video set up, I realized I don't have very good lighting. So please bear with me. I'm sorry. It may look funny, but just listen, maybe. Kind of like what the video said last week. Hear what I'm getting ready to say. That was cheesy. That's fine. I don't care. But it'll be a work in progress. I promise things will start looking a little bit better on here in the near future. So just please stick with me a little bit longer. But so this video is ACT. This is technically the second part two of the video that I did last week here. I wanted it all to be one video, and I feel like the video I did a couple weeks ago that was like 18 minutes long, I felt like that was a bit lengthy. My attention span isn't very long, so I don't expect everybody else to have the same 18-minute attention span, especially when it's just me sitting here talking. So trying to make it a little bit better and break it up. But so ACT, what do I mean when I say that? Last week I talked about what do you do when you hear what God is saying. Well, that's not necessarily the only part that we need to be aware of, because in James 1:22 it says, "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." Yes, we are supposed to hear God's words, but that's not all. We are supposed to act on God's word. Throughout the Bible, we are told what we must do. The Great Commission is a great example of this. It always comes to mind. We need to be able to tell Jesus about who he is and what he has done for us in our lives. And I've talked about this before, but the enemy always likes to stop us by doing this thing, by hitting us with a little thing called fear. It's good to know that God, by far, is greater than the enemy, because the Spirit of God, or excuse me, I said that wrong. It's great to know that we can overcome our enemy, because the same great God that raised Jesus from the dead, the same God that heals the lame and can cure cancer and divide the Red Sea, that God lives within us. So that is a very empowering thing. And once we begin to realize that that unstoppable God is inside of us and is our driving force, then we also become unstoppable. Tell a mountain it will move, and it will. What does it have? Faith of a mustard seed. Maybe you are kind of new to the whole Christian thing, and maybe you don't really know where to start with being able to reach people. Well, very simple thing. Try talking about yourself. Give your testimony. I think it's kind of easy for us to be able to talk about ourselves. We know our own story, don't we? Just become more open about it. Tell people about it. And it doesn't even matter if you think it's a great testimony or not, because what you define as something that might be small in your life, somebody else may define as something big. Because it might be a certain challenge that they're facing that you've already overcome with God's help. That might be your opportunity to tell somebody about it. It kind of reminds me of something that I heard. I believe it was Stephen Furtick that said this, or I'm going to be paraphrasing it a little bit, but it kind of reminds me of what God does as well in our lives. What we consider to be a huge problem in our life, God sees as something very, very small. I mean, I gave some good examples of that just a second ago. God being able to raise people from the dead, cure cancer, divide the Red Sea, perform unbelievable miracles. All of these things that we see as these huge problems in our life, God just, get out of here. Get out of here with that. That's nonsense. You know, this God is God. God is a great God. God can literally do anything that he wants to do. So any of those problems are just nothing to God. But what we consider to be small things in our life that are unimportant are very big to God. What does that mean? What are examples of that? Your prayer time by yourself, studying the Bible, worshiping God when you are not at church on Sunday. Try worshiping him 7 days a week instead of just one. Sorry to step on toes. And I'm not saying that I haven't done the same thing before. Everybody needs to be able to endeavor to do those small things. Because when God sees that we are really pursuing the small things that are such a big deal to him, God sees that we are striving more to be able to be in a closer relationship with him. It becomes huge to God. Small things to us that seem unimportant are huge to him. I mean, truly do what God tells you to do in life. If he is, if he is asking you to speak about something because he is putting it onto your heart, then maybe you really do need to share it. Maybe God's really putting something on your heart for a good reason. Maybe God is putting a tugging onto you because he wants you to be able to share your story or share whatever it is that he's putting on your heart. One thing to always keep in mind is that God sees ourselves. God sees ourselves better than we see ourselves. Wow, I misread that completely. God sees ourselves better than we see ourselves. So why would we act? I don't mean like when I'm saying the name of this video is act, I don't mean like act like you're an actor for a film or something like that. Why act the part of a Christian? Instead, why don't you commit to being genuine to God and see what he really wants from us? A real relationship. Not something fake, a genuine relationship. In our relationship with God, he does so much for us. He comforts us. He gives us peace. He gives us love, wisdom, happiness, just to name a few things. So with all of those things that he gives us, when he asks us to act, why can't we do this? It may take us out of our comfort zone sometimes, but in the end, I promise you, it will be all right. It will be worth it at the end of the day. It seems appropriate when I say it like this, that since God is our Father, and like a good parent encouraging us or encouraging their child to try harder and to make friends and to do better in life, God does the same thing with us. He's a loving parent. That's what a loving parent does. They want their child to succeed. And here we go. I got to turn over in my Bible. Massive one I showed you guys the other day. So in Matthew 7:21-23, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. I mean, could you imagine how terrible it would be to hear that? I mean, when you're sitting there in judgment, you think that you've been this great Christian. You've been acting the part. You've been trying, you've been raising your hands, but you haven't been worshiping God. You've been trying to impress people that are around you, your social circle at church. You haven't been genuine with God. If he said that to you, can you imagine how horrible that would be? I mean, obviously, you know what would be after that. It would be even much worse, but just to think that you can't, with Christianity, you can't fake it till you make it. It's got to be real. What I would actually prefer to hear would be in Matthew 25:23. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into joy of your Lord. Enter into the joy of your Lord. The way that we get to that is by doing what God tells us to act on throughout our entire life. It's scary. It really is scary. When I sat here and I was writing these notes and I started to think about it, it's like, how many dormant Christians are out there right now? How many opportunities are being missed? How many lives are not being changed? How many people are not being saved because so many people are not acting? I am encouraging you right now to pray on what God is telling you to act on. Don't just constantly speak. Listen to what God hear, what God is wanting you to speak, or what God is wanting you to act on. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a series of videos on YouTube and Facebook. Or maybe you'll end up speaking in church one day. I really hope that I get to see where this does take you. I hope that somebody can come up to me and say, hey, I saw your video, and because of what you said about acting on God, this is what I did. I really hope that I can hear that from somebody. So if you do that, please tell me. So I want you to go get started, and please act now.